Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Debt, the elephant in the room. And I am just going to get us set up, make sure that I'm recording. And while I'm doing that, if I could get some people to just put a message in the chat saying that they are able to hear me, maybe let me know where you are from and that you can hear everything okay. All right. Hi, Renee from Grafton and Milwaukee. Stacy, hi. All right. Hi, Tiffany from St. Petersburg, Florida. Okay, so it looks like we are working okay. And I want to be respectful of everybody who is joining us today. So I'm going to go ahead while people are jumping on, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. And we are going to pop right in to this process. And hopefully you will recognize the picture that is on here as the event that you are literally here to be attending today. So we are here to talk about debt, the elephant in the room. And, you know, a lot of times when we think about debt, most of us would rather clean the bathroom than look at our financial situation. And I really want you to walk away from tonight with the knowing, with the understanding, with the belief that you do not have to be like the elephant that's afraid of the mouse. Your debt is the mouse. You have the power and the strength to walk through your debt, and you will be okay. And we can show you how to do that. So we're going to talk about that big old debt in the elephant in the room. So my name is Kim Raynor, and I founded a company called All About Spirit Life Coaching. I actually have two guests that are going to be with me, and I'll introduce them a little later in the presentation tonight. So I'm a certified life and money coach. And how I ended up becoming a certified life and money coach is because in 2007, I was in my third year of nursing school, preparing to start my second career. And I was diagnosed with stage 3C ovarian cancer. And I was not able to complete my education. I was not able to continue on in the career that I had had previously. And I needed to figure out something to do to move forward in my life. So I recognized that people who had health crises often ended up in financial problems. They ended up in financial debt. And they needed a way to be able to transition from what life used to look like to what life looks like today. And that led me to a journey where I started helping people with health and wellness. I started doing life coaching for people. And I also started addressing or helping them address the financial devastation that can come along with a medical crisis. And I know today, after doing this work, it is not just people who have a medical crisis who end up in this problem. There are people from all walks of life, and anybody who is alive through 2020 knows that things can change on a dime, and sometimes we just aren't prepared for what's going to come. So my life coaching practice is really all about taking a look at your life from 50,000 feet and helping you with your emotional patterns, with your health, and with your financial issues. So we're here to talk about finances. A little bit about my history. I'm a retired corporate executive. I spent 17 years in management in the hospitality industry, a lot longer than that in the hospitality industry in general. I have an entrepreneurial background. I'm actually third generation entrepreneur, and I have been a real estate investor for more than 43 years. And that's a long time. So you can kind of take a look and say, okay, well, do the math on that. It'll give you a feel for just exactly how old I am. In some of my entrepreneurship adventures, I certainly did flipping of houses, did rental properties and that kind of thing. I also bought, sold, and financed manufactured homes. And so I became very familiar with amortization schedules and running credit and learning how to read that information and navigate and looking at loans and helping people understand their financial picture. So that really is what led me here today to talk about the financial stuff that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to start by just saying, you know, we all have goals that we want to accomplish in life. You know, most of us would love to take our trip to our favorite place, right? We'd like to own a nice fancy car. Maybe we'd like to get a second home, a cottage, a beach home somewhere. Maybe we want to go to college, or we want to send our kids to college, or we would like to send our grandkids to college. We want to go on a vacation with someone, take the kids and the family to someplace special, right? Maybe we want to get married. Maybe we want to own a really nice home. Maybe we're looking to upgrade. And these are crazy times to be looking at trying to do that kind of stuff. But right, these are goals that we want to accomplish. And the thing about our goals, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, but our goals literally put us in debt. And if we know how to navigate debt, there's not a problem with that. The problem becomes us getting into debt and not really understanding the consequences of the debt that we're in. So when we think about what we would like, it's a different picture of what really unfolds in our life. And this is how, life shows up for most of us, right? We may go to college when we get out of high school, right? We go to college, get our degree. And when we graduate, we start our new job. So at that point, right, we have some discretionary income. We have some student loans, and the debt to income ratio is a little off balance. We have some principal that we owe, and then there's going to be interest that's going to be paid on top of that. So right out of the gate in our adult life, if we went to college, we start in debt, and it doesn't get better going forward from that. Lots of times we'll get married, and that is often the best picture that we have in our life. Those first couple of years, we double our income, right? We have dual income. So the debt to income ratio is probably the most balanced that it'll be. Maybe we had to borrow some money for our wedding expenses, but we have a fairly good amount of discretionary income, right? Our debt is principal to interest isn't so horrible. But then the baby package comes, right? Costs money to have babies. We know that to raise a child today from birth through college, it costs about $1 million to be able to do that. Now, the good news is you don't have to shell that out all at one time, but you do need to feed your child. You need to clothe your child. You need to send them to school. They're probably going to want to play games and do things. They're going to want toys, and all of that stuff costs money. We add that to the debt portfolio. And then, we have this family, we need to have a place to live. So we go and we buy our house. And this is where the scales really start to get tipped, right? Our debt to income ratio doesn't typically get better from this point. So we own our home. And then we have to go to and from work. We have to be able to provide transportation for our family. So we buy a car. And every time we add something to our debt portfolio, our discretionary income gets less and less and less. And discretionary income is the money that you have left at the end of the month after all of your bills are paid, or after all of the minimum amounts due on your bills are paid. So this is the beginning, right? This is how most of us are. We're cruising along in our life, and this is what it looks like. So then what happens is the cool vacation, second home, the Gulf trip to Hawaii, those things literally vanish from our lives. They're not even on our radar anymore. And it's because our dreams end up getting replaced by the things that we do that put us in debt. Those are the things that create our personal cost of living. So we end up giving up our dreams because of that. The problem is that we end up budgeting for the price tag of the things that we want to get rather than budgeting for the true cost. And that's what we're going to talk about today is really what's the true cost of the things that I want to purchase? What is the real price tag of what I want to accomplish in my life? We know we live in a debt-fueled economy. There's no question about that. Now, these are 2017 statistics. These statistics are updated every 5 years, so there'll be new information coming out. And I can promise you, it is not going to look better after last year than it did walking into it. We know that average credit card debt, in 2017 was about $16,500. We also know that the average mortgage was about $180,000. Average student loan was about $51,000. Average car loan was about $31,000. And this is one of the things that always makes me chuckle. In 1977, when I bought my first house, I paid $40,000 for that home. Today, my son bought a car for almost what I paid for my house. That is insanity. So it's not anybody's fault, and it's just the process, it's the consequences, it's the life that we live in today. So I am going to talk today about mortgage. I'm going to talk about debt in the context of a mortgage And your personal finances might differ from this example, but I can promise you the principles on credit cards, on student loans, on a mortgage, on car loans, the principles are exactly the same. So I'm going to invite you to just think about it in the context of your personal debt, or maybe in the consequences of debt for somebody that you care about, people that you know, maybe people that you went to school with, right? I want you to think about it outside of that box. So I'm going to look at a 30-year mortgage on a $200,000 home at 4.5% interest. Now that is a nice round, easy number to work with. And the things I want you to remember is $200,000, 4.5% interest, okay? So we go through and we pay our first year. You bought your house, you closed, you're super excited. And at the end of that first year, you will have paid just over $12,000. The thing is, $8,934 of that will have gone to interest. $3,228 of that will have gone to principal. That is 73% interest. That is not 4.5% interest. Most people don't recognize that. We look ahead to 2 years, right? We just look at the amortization schedule. After the end of 2 years, the interest, right? You've paid again about $12,000 into that debt. About $8,700 of it is gone to interest. About $3,460 of that has gone to principal. You now have paid 72% interest on your 4.5% interest rate mortgage on $200,000. So when they say that it's 4.5%, that's not really accurate. Now, I don't want you to think that your bank or your financial institution gave you misinformation. They literally gave you an amortization schedule that spelled all of this out. They handed you a truth in lending document that said, this is how much it's going to cost you at the end of the day to buy your house. This is what you're going to pay in interest. The problem is most of us don't understand what those numbers mean. They don't really get the financial consequences of it, and they don't know how to do anything differently. So we just move forward and do what the bank tells us to do. So let's fast forward 20 years. You've made all your payments on time. You have never missed a payment. You've never been late, never paid a penalty. You have now paid $243,000 for your $200,000 home. I do not have a problem with having to pay interest. It costs money to borrow money. I don't have a problem with that. And here's the kicker with the scenario. You still owe almost half of what you have originally borrowed, and you are 2/3 of the way through your debt. You have paid 2/3 of your mortgage and you still owe almost half. That is obscene. At the end of the day, this is going to look like a 30-year mortgage at 4.5% interest, $200,000. You will have paid $365,000 for that mortgage. You probably are not paying attention to that when you sign on that dotted line. That, my friend, calculates out to 82% interest, not 4.5% interest. And it's because of the way interest is compounded. It's compounded on a daily basis. Yes, it might be 4.5%. If it was simple interest, you could calculate it that way. This is compounded and it's much more complex. So the picture that most Americans are in today is we pay about 34.5 cents of every dollar to interest on our debt. That is a third of every dollar that you spend. That's really, really hard to swallow when you start breaking it down, looking at it this way. So most people, if they understood the consequences of debt, they would be able to live the life that they're hoping for, but they don't. So I'm going to just invite you for a second to pause and say, what would your life look like if you didn't have to worry about all of the interest that you're paying on your debt, if you were constantly paying catch up? What would your life be looking like? Could you go on a really cool vacation with your family? Could you take the kids or the grandkids to the beach? Could you not have to work 2 jobs or overtime? Could you cut off the golden handcuffs and maybe do something that you really, really love to do because you're not tied to trying to pay for something that you did just to keep your head above water in the past? What I know today, after doing this work for a long time, is that most people don't reach their financial freedom because it's easier to continue to do what we've always done than it is to look at something different. When I say most people would rather clean the bathroom than look at their financial situation, I really know that to be true. It is so much easier to just ignore, especially if we've set up, auto bill pay and that kind of stuff. It's so easy to just ignore it and say, yeah, it's taking care of itself. But I can promise you that your financial situation is not the place to put your head in the sand and pretend that everything is okay if you're not taking a look at it. So I'm just going to interactively ask you a question. How badly, and you can put this information in the chat, how badly do you want to get out of debt? On a scale of 1 to 5, are you at a 1 that says, I absolutely want to be out of debt free? I would do anything I could to be debt free. Or you hang out in the camp that says, you know what, I don't mind financial stress. Who needs extra money anyways? My partner and I, it gives us a really good opportunity to practice our communication skills as we try and figure out how to pay the bills. So, where do you fit on the scale? And just drop it in the chat and let me know where you fit in that scale. So as we start to look forward and say, okay, so I'm in debt and there's some consequence to that, oftentimes we start looking and saying, okay, well, what are the options if I decide I want to get out of debt fast? Well, you absolutely could pay the minimum payment, and that will have you paying, $200,000 or $365,000 for a $200,000 home. You could do a refinance or a debt consolidation, and what I'm going to invite you to do is to pause before you decide to take that action. And the reason I say that is when you do a refinance or a debt consolidation, that completely resets the debt to the principal to interest ratio, and you start the process all over. And you may or may not remember in 8th or 9th grade bookkeeping where they drew that rectangle, and on the rectangle they drew a diagonal line, and the top part of the line is interest, and the bottom part of that rectangular quadrant is principal. Well, you front load the interest every time you reset, every time you do a debt consolidation. So the only people that make money on that really are the financial institutions. So I invite you to not do that until you've had a conversation with either me or the person that invited you here today. So you could make biweekly payments to your mortgage if your financial institution will allow you to do that. Most mortgages written today say, yep, you can't do that. What we're going to do is hold the money that you send. We're going to keep it in a little pocket for you. And when you have enough for a full payment, that's when we're going to take that money and apply it to your debt. So really the bank is the opportunity to use your money and for absolutely free for the period of time it takes you to get another full payment in your little bucket. So when a bank has your money and it's using it, they literally don't do anything with your money for less than 18%. They don't earn less than 18%. And they can re-lend your money time after time after time. So you want to be smart with how you're making your payments. You could go get a side hustle, earn more money, get a second job, a third job, a fourth job. You could send extra money to principal that sometimes is similar to the biweekly payments to your mortgage, or for credit card, you could pay down, throw a little extra at it, and there's lots of people that do that. You could do a debt snowball, which means you're going to take any extra discretionary income you have and you're going to throw that at your smallest debt. And when that smallest debt is completely paid off, you're going to take the money you were paying to pay that one down, plus the next one, combine it, and throw that money at that next smallest debt and continue to do that until you're debt free. That is a strategy. You can also do a debt avalanche, which says I'm going to put extra money toward the interest, the highest interest account. The problem with that is you don't really know for sure what's going to give you the best bang for your buck. You might have a credit card that you're paying 20.99% interest on $2,000, and you might have a mortgage that you have $150,000 on at 4.5%, and the interest you're paying on your mortgage is so much more than what you're paying on the credit card. You are freaking out because you're paying a higher interest rate on your credit card, but you don't really know the financial impact that it's having on your bottom line. So really, my invitation to you is to stop guessing with what you're doing. If I was going to take a trip to Cincinnati from Appleton, which is where I hail from, I would not just start heading south and hang a left and head south and hang a left without putting something into my GPS. I may or may not hit Cincinnati. I may or may not hit a lake somewhere. I may end up in New York if I make too many left turns, right? I'm not going to guess. Why would I do that with my money? So the thing that I'm talking about is the only financial GPS that is available on the market today. And sometimes people say, okay, well, what is this financial GPS? What exactly is it that you're talking about? And I'm going to share a little information about that people who are familiar with the financial realm are really familiar with. Ernst & Young and Entrepreneur of the Year, those are two trade rags that really their purpose is to go out and look at companies that are up and coming and to say, this is a company that probably has potential. This will become a force to be reckoned with. Let's pay attention to what's going on in these companies. When Microsoft was hanging out in Bill Gates's garage, when Apple was just a thought in somebody's mind, when eBay and Starbucks were just fledgling little companies, they were written up in Ernst & Young, and they were written up in Entrepreneur of the Year. We have been written up in Entrepreneur of the Year. We are identified truly as a force to be reckoned with. We also have been written up in Success, in Home Business, in True Wealth, in Broker Banker, in Mortgage Planner. And these are all entities that people in the real estate industry, that they pay attention to say, okay, what's up and coming? What's going on in the world? We've been written up in all of these trade rags. So a lot of times at this point in the conversation, people will say, well, Kim, what exactly is debt shredder? And I'm going to back my way into telling you what it isn't first. It's not a refinancing. I already told you why refinancing isn't a good idea. It's not a mortgage modification, not going to do a debt roll down, not going to ask you to increase your payment, not going to ask you to go on a financial diet. You don't have to change banks. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Literally, it takes the money that you're already spending and it just shifts and rearranges the way that you're spending it to get you from where you are today to zero debt in the fastest way possible. So it literally has the answer for the smartest way to get you from where you are now to zero debt. And how does it do that? It uses something called algorithms. Now, if you're a math person, you may or may not know what an algorithm is. They are decision-making programming that literally prioritizes what it is that you want to happen based on the data or the information that is put into the system or available to the system at any given moment. So in this case, for debt shredders purposes, the information or the data that's put in is, what are your goals? What are your dreams? Where do you want to be in X amount of time? So we take the power, the same tools that the banks use to say, well, this is how we're going to manage your money, Kim, while your money is laying in your financial institution. And it puts that power into my hands. It takes that power and it puts it into your hands. That's a game changer. That's powerful. It literally goes through something called factorial combinations of math to find out what is the best possible solution for me for where I am today. So factorial math is kind of a funky thing, right? If you have 4 different debts, there's 24 combinations of how you might be able to pay down your debt. If you have 6 different debts, there are 720 possible combinations of the ways that you could pay down your debt. That's why throwing extra money at principal, throwing extra money at the highest interest rate may or may not be the best possible way for you to be paying down your debt. Literally, what I offer you is the opportunity to take the guesswork out of what you're doing. And if you're a math person, you know to do one algorithm, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour for the average person. If you have 720 combinations, that is 720 hours a month that you would spend calculating where is the best way to throw my money? Where's the best way to pay down? Where should I throw this extra money to principal? 720 hours, that translates to a week every month that you're going to spend figuring this stuff out on your own. Not going to happen. I don't care how much you like math. So what Debt Shredder does is it literally takes the factorial math, it takes the algorithms, and it looks real time where you are right now by considering where you were, how you got here, what your present situation is today, and what you have coming up in the next 90 days to say, how should I pay down my debt? Where am I going from here? How much money do I have to save to pay off whatever it is that's coming up next? It literally takes all of that information real time and does it on your behalf. So you don't have to calculate any of that on your own. Debt Shredder is literally the fastest way to zero debt that is available that I am aware of. So what is Debt Shredder? It is an online, web-based money management and debt elimination system. That's a mouthful, right? What does that exactly mean? Well, it takes the strategies that your bank has been using for years to earn 18% interest on the money that you are storing in their facility, lending it out up to 10 times per dollar, right? It takes those strategies and the algorithms and the factorial math, and it says, what's your financial situation, Mary Jo? What do you want it to look like? And it calculates it all out for you based on your data, based on your information. And is the only interactive system on the market today. And when I say interactive, that means that it'll adjust on the fly. If you have something coming up in your world, like let's say your car breaks down and it's, oh, this is a non-repairable issue for my car. You can literally plug the information into Debt Shredder and say, what's it gonna look like to my debt if I purchase this car? What's that gonna look like? And it'll tell you how that's gonna impact your debt. I know people who were looking at purchasing a rental property, and they had a fairly significant debt portfolio, over $900,000, but they were real estate investors, and they were looking at this rental property. It was about $120,000, and they liked the house. It was a nice home, and they literally left the showing. Obviously, not happening today. They left the showing, went out to their vehicle, plugged the information into Debt Shredder to say, what's this debt going to look like when I add it to my portfolio? Debt Shredder kicked back the information. They were asking, how much time is this going to add to my debt portfolio? Debt Shredder came back and said, oh, honey, you know what? We're going to knock a few months off your debt portfolio because, yes, you will pay $120,000 for this home, but we're going to consider also the income that you're going to generate on the fly from the rental income in this home, and you are going to knock time off. You're going to shave time off your debt. That's a game changer. They literally were able to turn around, walk back in that house, put that offer in on that house, and purchase it on the spot, knowing that it was going to be helpful. That is an interactive system. You can buy a vehicle. You can be looking at amenities that you'd like to put into a vehicle. You can say, hey, I think I want to redo my bathroom. What's that going to cost? How is it going to impact us over the long haul? You can look at all of that stuff on the fly because it's interactive. So it really has the ability to adjust real time, which is the things that I'm talking about. And one of the other things that I really like about this is, let's say Aunt Betty loaned you some money and she's a great aunt and she's not charging you any interest. You say, I have a moral obligation to pay Aunt Betty back first. Debt Shredder says 0% interest. We're going to put that one on the back burner and we're going to pay it, later. You can say, yeah, Debt Shredder, this is important to me. I want to keep my relationship with Aunt Betty clean and I want to make that a priority. So Debt Shredder will say, absolutely, Kim, you can do this the way you want. Let's go ahead and set it up that way. That is putting the power of your personal system back into your hands. So the information is laid out really easy. It's a really easy format to take a look at. This is literally a copy of what the dashboard looks like for Debt Shredder. It tells you how much time it's going to take you to pay off your debt. It will tell you how much interest you have saved if you're in the process of using your Debt Shredder. It will also tell you how much interest you have remaining to pay. And one of the things that's fun that I know people do who have Debt Shredder is they will try to race Debt Shredder, kind of like you race your GPS. Can I save, 3 minutes on my time to Milwaukee? Can I save 4 days if I do this? Can I save time if I do that? So people try to race their Debt Shredder. It literally will tell you exactly what to do each and every week as you're walking through the process. So I'm going to take a minute and I'm just going to show you an analysis that I did for a customer of mine, John and Deb. I did it last September. And this is, they had about 2 payments, I think, on a home that they had purchased. They took out a 30-year mortgage. And this is literally an analysis of what Debt Shredder can do. So the information that's on here, I'm just going to show you a little bit about this. This left-hand column in black, this is the year, right? This is year 1. This is where they were in 2020. This is the bank schedule. Everything in red is what the bank says the next 30 years of John and Deb's life is going to look like. They are going to have to make their monthly payment every month for the next 30 years. And by 2049, they are going to make their last payment to the financial institution of $129.16, and they are going to do their mortgage burning party at that point, assuming they don't have any other debt to add to the portfolio. When I ran their numbers, the information on here says, okay, the stuff here in blue, that is when Debt Shredder says you are going to be in debt, John and Deb. The information here in green says this is when you are going to be out of debt and you are going to be starting to accumulate your wealth. Now that is a game changer. The bank says 30 years. I say, Debt Shredder, I can have you out of debt in 8.8. That's a big deal. Some people like to look at information in lists. Other people like to see it in pictures. This is a picture or a graph version of the same information I showed you. The red here is Debt Shredder, or I'm sorry, is the bank. That's when the bank says you're going to be out of debt. The blue says Debt Shredder is when you're going to be out of debt. The green says, okay, here's where you can start building your wealth portfolio. That's a game changer. Now, these people had 5 debts. Bank says 30 years. I say with Debt Shredder, I can guarantee in writing, if you follow this scenario, I guarantee you I can have you out of debt in 8.8 years, debt-free, and by 2029. I can save you 20.3 years without adding extra cost, without adding extra anything. Literally throwing extra money in anything, literally taking the payments that John and Deb are already making and letting Debt Shredder say, let's allocate it this way instead. $121,000 in savings in interest. That's a big deal. That's a game changer. So what does Debt Shredder literally tell you, right? It does this with little to no alteration in your current standard of living. It does not ask you to refinance. And again, I'm going to say this again, because if you're considering doing a debt consolidation, if you're considering doing a home equity line of credit or a HELOC, if you're considering doing an extra, remortgaging your house, please, please, please have a conversation with the person who invited you here tonight or me before you do that. There is no reason to do the debt consolidation. In fact, Debt Shredder says the more debts you have, the more I have to play with. So I like it better that way. Literally, we want to let the software direct you to the fastest way to get to zero debt as possible using your current situation. So Debt Shredder uses 4 strategies to accomplish this. The first one is interest cancellation. That literally makes it possible for you to pay back your debt, to pay back the interest at a fraction of what you would normally pay back. It uses something called strategic payback that says, okay, I'm going to analyze your system and I'm going to figure out the best possible path for you to take. It considers the time value of money. Anybody who does anything with money knows money is worth more today than it's ever going to be worth in the future. And then because this is a really powerful tool, we're not going to hand it to you and then say, okay, go figure it out. Right? We are going to teach you how to do this. We are going to coach you. We are going to support you. We are going to train you in the process so you are successful. We do that because at the end of the day, we will guarantee you that you will be out of debt in the time that we say, provided you follow the system, the way the system is laid out, the way it's instructing you to, or we will give you your money back for the cost of the system. That is putting your money where your mouth is. So what does the software really tell you? It tells you how much money to move. The requirements are you have to have a bank account, a checking account, and a savings account. You also have to make $1 more than the required minimum balance that you have to pay all your debts every month. So if you are in a situation where you have more month at the end of your money, Debt Shredder will not work for you coming out of the gate. There's some other things that you're going to need to do first, and we can certainly have a conversation to say what that would look like. But it'll tell you how much money to move between your accounts. It's going to tell you when to move it. It's going to give you the exact date. And I literally had somebody call me one day and say, hey, Debt Shredder is asking me to move 14 cents from my checking account to my savings account. Is that for real? And I'm thinking, man, if it's going to save you $121,000, move the 14 cents. Just do what it says, right? I don't know why it's doing that because I'm not going to figure out the 720 combinations that it's going to take to do that. Just move the 14 cents. So it's going to tell you what account to move it from, what account to move it to, and it's going to consider, right? Did the car break down? Am I buying another house? Did I lose my job? Am I on medical leave? Is something else going on? Did I have to go on, did something else happen that changed my financial picture? I can change it on the fly and Debt Shredder will readjust for me. Its only job, emotions are out of the equation. Its only job is to help you find the fastest mathematical way to get to zero that's possible. So I can do an analysis. The person who invited you here can do an analysis to literally show you what your situation would look like. And this is actually another portion of John and Deb's analysis. It doesn't just tell you how to get out of debt. It literally shows them or you the cost of borrowing money. For John and Deb, I was able to save them $121,346 in interest. Every month that they wait or that they waited to purchase Debt Shredder, it cost them $1,145. That's a game changer. Imagine what your life would be looking like if you could save that kind of money on a monthly basis. Not only does it tell you that, but it also will demonstrate what is the earning potential on the money that I save. Now, if John and Deb take all of the money that they save and put it in an interest-bearing account at 1% interest, at the time they reach the end of when the bank said they would be out of debt and writing out their last $129 check, if they use Debt Shredder and put money away at 1%, they will have amassed $811,956 in their retirement account. Now that's at 1% interest. If you are only earning interest at 1% on your money, please let's have a conversation. I'll connect you with a financial advisor who will do much better than that. But man, that's a game changer. Look at where people are right now. Not going to happen in this world. So our free debt analysis will explain all of this to you for your personal situation. So I have a couple of friends that are with me today, and I am going to ask them to pop on. I'm going to take a second and introduce Stacy. Stacy is from Milwaukee. She's a financial analyst. She is a mom to a couple of cats and a turtle, and she is an absolute avid music lover. She works for a financial institution, and she is also a business owner and entrepreneur, and she is a successful user of Debt Shredder. So Stacy, thank you for joining me tonight. And can you share a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me on, Kim. This is a great presentation. I was kind of telling you a little bit earlier, but I had bought the Debt Shredder program about 4 or 5 years ago, and I never used it. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not using it because it would be way farther along. But it is what it is. But right around December of this past year, I was kind of taking a look at my finances, and I was thinking I make a great income, but I have no money, and I have no money because I'm paying off so much credit card debt that I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I kind of I met with an agent who kind of went through my whole program with me, and I plugged everything in, and all of a sudden there was a date and how much money I was going to be saving, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's kind of fantastic to see. And I put every single penny that I spend, I put everything into Debt Shredder. I bought a pair of shoes last month that I put in just so I could, have that $52.50 that I wanted to spend for it. I have an event coming up in 2 months, and I put the amount of money that I need to have for that event, and it's saving that money for me. I'm getting a facial next month that I normally don't get, and so I wanted to set $200 aside for that, and it does everything. It's kind of a pain in the neck too, because it also I'm more cautious about not spending at the seat of my pants where I used to, where I would just on the fly, I'll go out to dinner. Well, now I have to look at Debt Shredder and see how much money I have left over for the month in order to spend that extra money for going out to dinner or for doing what I want. And it's great, but it can be, that's the only, the tickle on the side is that it is, I follow it to a T, knowing that it's such a game changer in my life that I have to follow it, and I have to put every single penny I put into it so I can get out of debt when I want to get out of debt. but yeah, I just absolutely love it. It's on my phone to look at 10 o'clock every morning and pay my bills when I need to pay my bills and move my money to my savings account when I need to move my money to my savings account. And it's just great.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And Stacy, I really love the idea that you use it to be able to pay for things like a facial, those extra things, right? I mean, that is taking where I was in the past, right? My credit card debt and saying, okay, this is where I am today. And this is where I want to be in, whenever I want to be there. So that's the power of the tool. It takes and looks at the whole picture. Most debt elimination tools or most processes only look at where you've been. And that is not helpful. You cannot fix what you did in the past. You cannot change that. So thank you so much for sharing your information with us. Next, I'm going to invite Jeanette Bearwald to come and share. Jeanette has been a friend of mine for a long time. And Jeanette, I'm going to ask you to hop on camera if you are able to. Jeanette has been a friend of mine for a long time. She lives in Hortonville. We've known each other for about 16 years. She is an amazing entrepreneur. She's been a business owner for a long time. She owns a beautiful resort property. She's involved in health and wellness, and she works a traditional job as well. So Jeanette, can you share with us a little bit about your experience with Debt Shredder?
Oh my gosh, I would love to. And thank you, Kim, for having me. Great timing on this. And Stacy, great story. Mine is sort of similar, but I didn't go quite as long as you did without using Debt Shredder. I did have it, and it became kind of the elephant in the room for me because I didn't want to even look at, I didn't want to be instructed on how to spend my money. And then I realized, well, the way I was spending my money wasn't getting me to debt zero very quickly. So I started using Debt Shredder faithfully about 6 months ago. And but it was probably almost 9 months ago that I actually, invested and got Debt Shredder and really, got set up with it. But great, perfect timing for this because 5-year truck loan, I just made the last payment day before yesterday, 3 years early. I'm like ready to cry. It's so awesome. And then so yeah, what I really love about this system is that when things come up unexpectedly, whether it be an expense or an income, both of them can and do affect your net date of when you're going to be debt free. And so I play with that. Currently, in fact, just recently in February, I was off of work because of being having some foot surgery, some elective surgery. So my income dropped 60% of what it normally is because I'm on disability, short-term disability. And I plugged that in and I started finding myself going, well, how long could I actually stay on disability and have me stay at 2 years to debt free? And I played with those and I came to the conclusion that, oh darn, I do have to go back to work very soon, unless I want to work for another year to make up for that time. But what I can tell you is that we were looking at almost 17 years before we were going to be debt free when we started this system. And I am currently looking at my Debt Shredder right above the camera here, and it's showing me that in 2 years I will be debt free. Now, mind you, I had a small inheritance in there, but how we were going to allocate the money was nothing like what Debt Shredder did, what Debt Shredder suggested that we do. And so it really, really has it controlled in one place. And I feel so confident in how this is playing out. One little tidbit, when Stacy was talking about, or I think Kim, you were talking about when it tells me to, take 14 cents and put it over there and, trust it. I was today in the car taking money from one bank, and I have to accumulate my banking, but taking like $143 from one account and taking it to the neighboring town 5 miles up the road to put it into another account, thinking to myself, why am I doing this? And then I said, because Debt Shredder told you to. You just made the last payment on your truck 3 years early. So I am so excited. And when it's all said and done, I will have saved over $35,000 in interest in paying off those debts the way Debt Shredder wants me to. And that is amazing. I'm looking at investing in another rental property for Vrbo or our Airbnb after we get that paid off. So thank you to all who introduced me, and please check in with the person who invited you here for this product because it's amazing. Thanks for letting me share and for inviting me, Kim.
Oh my gosh, Jeanette, thank you so much. You are truly one of my success stories. Yeah, it's absolutely so exciting. Thank you for sharing. So imagine, I mean, looking at Jeanette, right, 55 years young, that's going to put her into a position that she's going to be able to retire when before, right, not even an option at that point. So let's go ahead and cruise forward. What are your next steps? What do you do now from this point? The first thing that I would suggest is literally talk to the person that invited you here today. If you found us on Facebook, if you found us, through LinkedIn, please reach out to me. You can send me a private message through either one of those entities. Request your free analysis to see how Debt Shredder can help you. It's great to see how it worked for Stacy. It's great to see how it worked for Jeanette. When you see it with your numbers, that's what's going to make it really be a big difference for you. That's what's going to make it be a big deal. I want to remind you that this is not about eliminating debt. That is just the beginning of what Debt Shredder and Shop Financial can do for you. I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and I want to remind you that your financial situation is only going to change if you choose to change it. So thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Jeanette and Stacy, if you want to hop on one last time and say good night, I'd appreciate that. And then we're just going to end for today. So thank you everybody for being here. And Jeanette and Stacy, thank you so much for your time and happy saving.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye everybody.